is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this.
Good evening. It's been an interesting few weeks. Hope you all had a very good Christmas. I know some of you helped me out last week, and we tried to get this Facebook comments working and stuff. Unfortunately, it seems it's not working, and all I'm getting is Facebook user, and more Facebook user on the side of me. So my apologies about. I'm sure you can all see who it is on the on your actual Facebook streams yourself. So yeah, and thank you. We're up to about 92, I think, last I checked. So we've got 92 people who can be with us today. So we'll see how many we get. So I'm just going to turn my phone on so I can see who's joined us on Facebook. My intention, I think, long term is I'm trying to combine it with YouTube, because there's a few people who, for whatever reasons, haven't signed up to the supporters page on Facebook. So I'm trying to stream to an unlisted page on YouTube as well, and that's what's causing the issue. Trying to do both those things at once is what's causing this. But I will see where we end up. Okay. Comments are auto-generated, so I've got some comments on here, so I can make sense of it this way. I just need to turn my sound off so I don't have to listen to myself. Okay, hello. Okay, let's get going. You see, so that's what I get. Do you see? I get the. Okay, it's been a year. It's been a year since this happened, and I think it's important that we bring it up and you can all see it. This is a year since the deputy leader apparently hit back, and look at the headline by Charlotte Green, your local democracy service, really going for it. Apparently, she defends her friendship with the murderer of Dale Cregan's getaway driver. And as you all know, that murderer has just been convicted before Christmas for a hate crime. So nothing about defending that relationship, Rouge. Textbook misogyny, no, none of that. But it's been a year. It's been a year since she stood up in the council chamber and lied. And every other councillor stood up and applauded. So what a change a year brings, huh? Okay. So that's a Rouge, and we'll get back to her later. And what else happened this year whilst we were gone? Look at that, Charlotte Green again. Look when it was published. Can you see when it was published? Can you see that? Do I need to make that bigger? Does that help? A review into allegations of child sex exploitation in Oldham is now expected to publish its findings in the middle of 2021. So what's the middle, Charlotte? June, July, August? I'll guarantee you what the middle is. I guarantee you the middle is after the May elections. That's right, isn't it, Charlotte? The middle is after the elections. Now, why would that be? Now, there's a problem with that. And the problem with that is, remember the last council meeting? Apparently, this letter, and I'll highlight this bit, but you can all see it. In a letter read out at the December meeting of the full council, Baroness Hughes, whose deputy mayor portfolio includes policing, said, that review is ongoing and at present looks set to report in the middle of 2021. Now, why did not a single councillor raise this issue? Why did not a single councillor raise it and say, hold on a second, what's going on here? How can this review that Sean Fielding stood up and claimed, so we're clear, Sean Fielding stood up and claimed was going to be released in October, November time. The council officer produced a paper claiming it was going to be produced in October, November time. And 2 days before Christmas, Charlotte Green conveniently releases a report that was apparently read at the full council meeting. Now, I watched bits of that full council meeting and I missed it. And I'm thinking, if I missed it, I'm sure most of you missed it. And if most of you missed it, I'm sure some of the councillors missed it. They were probably asleep or doing the knitting or stroking the cat or whatever it is they do on those Zoom type council meetings. But can you see what they've just done? Brian Hoban wanted that, and the Tories, to give them the due, wanted that investigation referred to the Home Office. And Sean Fielding and all the others, Howard Sykes, all of them, backed Sean Fielding to say, no, nothing to see here, everything's fine. The report is due in a couple of weeks. And what's happened? It's not a couple of weeks. We're now being told on the 23rd of December, as if anyone reads, the Evening Cron on the 23rd of December, conveniently, strategically released, that this report is now the middle of next year. So let's have a look at why that might be. And I've wrote some notes down. Remember, I've had to write some notes down because as much as I've been following this, it's getting complicated to follow. Right? First of all, when I released, and remember when this started, it started when Jim McMahon, Mac Mosque, scumbag, was exposed for using the funeral of Lee Rigby to hide news of grooming gangs. And him and all his Labour Party mates were going to put me in prison, were going to sue me, were going to do all sorts to me. And Fielding, first of all, got up and said lies. The second time got up and said barefaced lies. I'll repeat, barefaced lies. And then what happened? He brought in Dr. Mark Peel, the renowned Dr. Mark Peel, who took one look at it and ran away, refused to lead the investigation he'd been hired to look at. And then what happened? Fielding went running to his girlfriend's boss. Remember, Andy Burnham had just given Fielding's girlfriend a job she was never qualified to do, not from being a primary school teacher anyway. And Andy Burnham's office tried to hide that they'd given her a job, refusing freedom of information requests first. And what happened? Fielding comes along and then says, no, my mate Andy Burnham's going to do it. He's going to bolt it onto his inquiry. It's coming up to about 18 months, isn't it? It was bolted onto that inquiry. And it was mired in controversy right from the beginning. Mired in controversy. Remember the dodgy terms of reference? Excluding periods when Shabir Ahmed would have been out there grooming and gang raping kids. Still hiding that Shabir Ahmed worked for the council The ringleader of the Rochdale grooming gang worked for Oldham Council and was a member of the Labour Party. Hiding all of that. And then what happened? I've got them here. I've still got them here. Letters went out to victims. So the council knew they were victims, otherwise why send letters out to them? Letters went out to victims, asking them to give evidence. The letters didn't have a phone number on them. The letters weren't even signed. The letters had links to web pages, and you had to type these links out in all 500 characters that the council later admitted didn't exist. And at the same time these letters went out, remember, Charlotte Green headline again with Sean Fielding, calling victims and their families liars and that they'd made this stuff up. So all of this had gone on beforehand. And then Brian Hoban came along and said, look, this is enough. And this is enough. So we're clear, came after I released that they'd been hiding a sex offender, a child sex offender. They'd been hiding Rod Blythe. All of them. Officers, politicians, the bloody lot of them. Hiding. 10 years convicted on the sex offenders register. Even the newspapers didn't report about it. Why was that? Hiding. And then what? It's finished, isn't it? He gets up and the Lib Dems back him. And what have they done? They've decided that this isn't going to go anywhere. And they rewrote the motion. They didn't vote on the motion. They rewrote the bloody motion. That arrogant swine Sean Fielding gets up and does his whatever he does. And they write to the Home Office to saying there's nothing to see here. And on the Zoom meeting to thousands of Oldhamers. And the report, and it's still on the council's webpage. They give assurances this report is coming out in November. And 2 days before Christmas, Charlotte Green, you might as well be on their payroll, Charlotte Green. This report is now coming out in the middle of next year. And not only is it coming out in the middle of next year, not only that, if you read her statement, Baroness Hughes, Beverly Hughes. Now, I know Beverly Hughes from a past life. I'm a very competent politician as politicians go. So she's not stupid. Admits to faults in the investigation. She admits that testimonies were altered. She admits that witnesses were stood up. Remember, I said all this? It's not fit for purpose at all. Not at all is it fit for purpose. So, why is it that it's been delayed for 6 months? And let me get on with the only reasons I can conceive it to be. First of all, it was botched. And we caught them at it, so they've had to restart it. So that's reason number one. For the last year and a half, whatever it was called, Newsman and Ridgway, or whatever those two guys are called, they were on a cover-up mission, and we've exposed it. So they're now having to, come back and do what they're doing. So that can be only reason number one. Reason number two. The cover-up is a delay to delay past the elections, which is what many of you are saying. Look, here we go. Won't come out till after the election. And sorry about this. I have no idea what it's saying, Facebook user. I can't fix it at my end. I'll have to do a few more test broadcasts maybe during the week and see if we can get this fixed, because it works when I broadcast directly to Facebook off my screen, but once I try and use something called Restream, this is what happens. So clearly I'm doing something wrong. So there you go. Covered up. Delayed after the election. And remember, Jim McMahon, and I'm looking at a picture of him in front of me here on my iPad. So I'm laughing every time I look at the snivelling. He looks like he's the sort of kid who was bullied at school. And then the teachers would probably look at him and think, yeah, he's been bullied. But you know what? He deserves being bullied. That's why I'm looking at this picture of him in front of me and I'm thinking, what a disgusting human being he is. Using the funeral of Lee Rigby to cover up grooming gangs. What sort of scumbag does that? What sort of scumbag does that? And of course, he tried to twist it, but he admitted it in one of his arrogant Facebook statements. He's been questioned by Burnham's investigators. Questioned. So all I can think of is the cover-up and delay is also because they got evidence in front of them that they don't know what to do with. You can't cover it up. Because he either used the funeral of Lee Rigby to hide news of grooming gangs and that email chain and all the rest of it to do with the Sisha bars is true, or he didn't. In fact, I spoke, I had a Facebook Messenger, whatever thing it's called, exchange with one of my contacts in the Pakistani community last night. He confirmed to me that many of the victims in the Sisha bars were actually Asian girls. It's not just white girls. Many of the victims, and he was clear, the kids were being groomed and raped and sold from out of these Sisha bars. And they included Asian girls. Does that make me, am I still a far-right racist? Or can I just talk about white people? Because I'm a bit confused on that. But, rather than just talk about kids, which is what we're really on about, is kids. That these adults in positions of power not just turned a blind eye, but sold our kids for votes. Unless someone else has got a better explanation as to what took place there, or what community relations mean. Because there's not any Asian, there's not an ethnic I know who'll turn a blind eye to kids being raped, regardless of what colour or religion they are. Community relations, my arse. And of course, then we get to the final possible reason. And I say this with all seriousness. Maybe Newsman and Ridgway have found so much abuse, so much grooming and gang rape and systematic failings to protect our children that they're overwhelmed and they need longer. What do you think? What we do know is why are the other politicians silent on this issue? Why have not what single one of them said, "Oi, what the F is going on here? We elect these politicians. Surely they should be outraged." Surely. I'm trying my best with the Tories because I think some of the young ones have potential. And they clearly listen to what I have to say on here because they take some of this and add it to what they do. And all credit to them. But Lewis, Beth, come on guys. Lancaster, Luke Lancaster, and what's the other young lad called? Woodvine. Come on. How can you sit silent whilst this investigation has been delayed until the middle of next year? Surely there should be an explanation as to why it's been delayed to the middle of next year. Sorry, yes, Max Woodvine, yeah. I don't understand. I get the Lib Dems doing it. I mean, you've got, Howard Sykes, self-declared mate of paedophiles. Not one, two. And then there was Buckley. I don't know if he's a mate of his or not, but he was a Lib Dem councillor as well, wasn't he? So, how can it be? How can it be that there's absolute silence from everybody who has been elected to represent the people of our town as to the failure on this investigation? And I couldn't do it. I couldn't go and look at the December meeting again with all the Zoom dropping in and dropping out and the fake fireplace backgrounds and stuff. But I'd be interested to know where in that council meeting this letter was read out, and whether any of them were awake or even cared. It's all right, I got my phone on and I'm just trying to load the comments up, so bear with me 1 second. No, not doing it for me, so I can just see who's watching with me, but oh, there you go. Sorted. They'll be blaming COVID-19. Lynn. Okay, brilliant. So I know where I'm up to that. Right. Okay. So let's carry on. I hear it's Sean Fielding's birthday. He's not going to enjoy what I have for his birthday. No, I don't have a script written down. I have you can see, I have notes on my homes, and that's homeschool papers that I'm using scrap pieces of paper. Okay, let's move on to the next bit. Whilst we've been away, what's happened whilst we've been away? So let's try this. You should be seeing my screen, and you should be seeing we've been shortlisted for the Future High Street Fund. You all see this? This is off the council's own webpage, and it was published on the 12th of July 2019. 12th of July 2019, shortlisted for the Future High Street Fund, blah, 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 2019. Let me now do this. And play this.
I've spoken since I became leader of the council about our ambitions to change and improve Oldham Town Centre. And as part of that, we want to tap in to a band of funding that the government has released called the Future High Streets Fund. This is a £675 million fund which is available to local authorities who want to come up with a range of improvements to their town centres. I've spoken at length about how we know how our town centres are no longer going to be the retail hubs that they traditionally were, and how people now want something more inclusive, something that is more of an experience to visit, that has opportunities for leisure activities and opportunities to dine out more. And we've made some changes in recent years with the Odeon Cinema behind me and a range of restaurants that have opened up too, but we need to do more. This funding can be used for a whole range of things, including bringing empty units back into use, which I know is a big concern of our local residents and a concern of mine as somebody that comes and visits Oldham Town Centre. And it can also be used to look at the changing nature of town centres and what alternative uses there can be for some of those units and properties throughout Oldham. On top of that, I've got a significant ambition to bring more residential development in Oldham Town Centre. The Townhead Centre has fantastic transport links in the Metrolink tram and in the bus service, and is very close to the city centre for those who might choose to live here but work in Manchester. And so I've been working hard to try and increase the number of residential properties that we plan to bring online in Oldham Town Centre and make sure that they are of a quality that our residents expect and deserve. We've also done something else to try and improve Oldham Town Centre with our Accessible Oldham scheme. That was a £6 million government funding pot which we have bid for, and we want to improve connectivity around the town centre so that people can get from places like the bus station down to Monks and here to the Town Hall and Parliament Square as easily as possible by foot or otherwise. We have a whole host of plans to improve Oldham Town Centre and make it a destination once again that large numbers of people want to visit, not just to shop, but to have something to eat or to see a film. The Future High Streets Fund is the latest in the long line of programmes that we're going to tap into to do just that, and I'm sure that our bid is incredibly strong and will be successful.
Do you hear that? I'm sure that our bid is incredibly strong and will be successful. You don't want to see that. I want to show you this. On Boxing Day, they found out that Stockport and Stretford got millions to improve the high street. That's off this pot, yeah. Stockport was given 14.5 million. Stretford was given 17.6 million. Do you see? The aim of the cash from the Future High Streets Fund. I'm sure our bid is strong and will be successful. Oldham, remember they were already ring-fenced to bid for this. So they'd already got past the starting line. Oldham is on the reserve list. They've got the provisional offer of funding, providing, and this is polite, the government says it will be working with them to finalise their proposals. That means their bid was a bag of, their bid was rubbish. That's what that means. Their bid was rubbish. And not only was their bid rubbish, the government have said, no, you can't have any money. We're going to send our experts in to look at your bid and help you improve it. Now, there's a couple of points in his, and you can, those of you who've listened to me over the last year or so, you can see all I do is take what Dave said and make sense of it and throw it back to you. He made reference to this hub thing, or basically it was the £6 million, and essentially that £6 million was some sort of cycling thing to get from Mumps to the town centre to somewhere else or somewhere else. This is only from last year. You can see it. £6 million to improve connecting various parts of the town centre. He's just admitted himself. He's just admitted recently that they want to now condense the town centre around Spindles. This time last year, or 18 months ago, he wanted to expand it and connect Mumps to Spindles, to Tommyfield, to the various bits of the town centre, and now he wants to condense it. Would you give him any money? Would you give him any money? And of course, the money he wants is to destroy Tommyfield and build welfare-dependent housing on it. Unless you believe him, where he claims that by building on Tommyfield will reduce the need to build in Saddleworth or Shaw or Royton or anywhere else where there's the green belt. He reckons that the people who will choose to live in the poorest part of the town with the highest level of crime and antisocial behaviour and the worst schools etc., etc. And they'll choose to live there instead of living in Saddleworth or the leafy bits of Shaw or Royton or Chadderton. Anyone believe him? No. Because bare-faced lies. I hear the Oldham Times went 6 days a week, and they were coming up with all sorts of stories, weren't they? I mean, here we go. This is one of the stories they came up with in their desperation. Highlights to look out for: what you can buy in the middle aisle of Lidl and Aldi. Honestly, I took that off the webpage, believe it or not. And what they decided wasn't important to report. And remember, I mock them and I pick on them because their chief reporter called me out. He wanted to straighten out with me. Phone me up, angry, shouting down the phone. Nick Jackson. What's it like, Nick, to be exposed and to have to, exist by sticking your tongue as far up the council behind as possible? Because, and this is serious, this is what happened this week as well. The Littlewoods thing, Shaw Distribution Centre. Many of my friends worked there over Christmas and all the rest of it. Shut down. Yeah. Finished. And the owners moved the operations to the East Midlands. Now, there's a story about this place that most of you probably don't know about. And the story goes something like this. A few years ago, and remember, this was once the biggest employer in the town. That's why it's symbolic. What was once the biggest employer in the town has shut up shop and left. And the Oldham Times wants to run a story about what you can buy in the centre aisle on Lidl and Aldi. Oldham Council didn't go cap in hand to stay. They did something worse. The story goes, Oldham Council went to them with a proposal. And that proposal wasn't what the business wanted to talk about. So they went somewhere where the starting point wasn't what the council wanted, but the starting point was what the business needed. And there is a subtle but significant difference between the two. There is a difference between what the council want, what was once the largest employer in the town to do, and what the actual employer wants to do. Now, the employer wanted some help to rejig its operations, and whilst they would lose some jobs and stuff, there'd still be a presence in the town. And anyone in business knows, keeping a big business in the town is important because you don't know what will happen the next day or the next year. The council weren't interested. What the council wanted was, they thought they could tell one of the biggest companies in the world what they could do. This big company, the biggest employer, told them where to go, shut up shop, and now is somewhere in the West Midlands. Really, now somewhere in the West Midlands. What is more damning is that this isn't the only time this has happened to this town. IKEA wanted to set up shop in the Alexander Retail Park, just behind Glodick. The council were dithering and deciding how much they could fleece them for, that Tameside stepped in, and before you know it, IKEA had left Oldham, which was their first choice destination, and went off to Tameside, because the conversation in Tameside wasn't, what can you do for us? The conversation was, what can we do for you? That's right, isn't it? I mean, I know it's right because I sat in the chief executive of the council's office at the time, and he shared with me the story. Yeah. Okay, let's carry on. There's a good line in here. You like this? You won't. Depending on your, depending on where you're at. Let me find it. Shaw councillor Howard Sykes described the closure as the end of an era. But we've still got N Brown in Shaw, and this is the best bit. And I know they've taken on some of the staff. Ready? And the council and others have done a good job in trying to help people find work. The council have apparently tried to help people find work. Come on then, Howard. How many people have found work that the council helped? What was the specific help offered? How did the council help? I'm going to put some of your comments up at the side here, even if you can't see it. Who's making them? At least they'll come up. It's what I've said all along. I'm presuming this is Paul. It's what I've said all along, Paul. The industry of this town is poverty. That's what the metropolitan elite from Charlton want. Charlton and Didsbury, their jobs are reliant on the rest of us being poor and the town being poor. And the politicians, McMahon, Fielding, Abrahams, need our townsfolk to be poor so they can use us as pawns in their posturing in Parliament, so they can climb that. He wants to be Prime Minister, remember? Although the other one, I think Debbie Abrams probably wants to be Prime Minister in Pakistan. She's got more chance of being a Prime Minister in Pakistan than she has Prime Minister of this country. Howard Sykes is just talking nonsense, isn't he? Absolute joke. But let's carry on. Let's carry on with what we're up to. Just give me a second. Let me just look at my notes. Some people have been asking why I've gone supporter only. And I will put this up so you can see for yourself what's been going on. This is just one of the many interactions. These people have been trying to put me in prison. It's not new. Remember, Fielding lied. Debbie Abrahams lied. McMahon now is claiming that there are hundreds of examples where I'm apparently malicious and threatening and designed to marginalise anyone who calls him out. Ignore the next sentence, I'll get to it in a bit. And then Neil Willaboobies, the malicious blogger, proven liar, now openly exchanging communication with Jim McMahon, as if ever there was doubt of that relationship, along with that Jenny Harrison. And all of this is because the pair of them are pissed because their boy, Irish Jimmy, has been convicted. When someone is convicted of a hate crime, of malicious communication, trying to imply that somehow I'm gay and my gayness or homosexuality is something that needs to be attacked, because that's what he was convicted for. It's clear now why Jim McMahon gave Irish Jimmy a reference, and he did give him a reference. He gave him a reference specific to his bail conditions around the sentencing for his role in assisting Dale Cregan in helping murder a number of individuals. Of one of them, as we all know, was a young policewoman from this town. And Jim McMahon gave Dale Cregan's getaway driver a reference. Why? I'll tell you why I think why. It's clear now, because he's Wilby's mate. Isn't the Irish Jim is Wilby's mate? I also think he's Jim McMahon's mate. Jim, is he your hired muscle? Is that what it was? You have gangsters on call to go and scare people and intimidate people. And now, instead of acknowledging that homophobic hate crime is wrong, you want to twist it round as though I've done something wrong? No, McMahon, you've done something wrong. You're in bed with gangsters. And that's not malicious or threatening. I'm telling you as I see it, you're in bed with gangsters. And let's get on to this bit. Jenny Harrison. What are we going to do with you, sad little man? I'm not a sad little man. You're a scrote of a woman. A disgraceful, disgusting politician is what you are, Jenny Harrison. And I'll explain to the people who are tuning in why Jenny Harrison is a disgusting, disgraceful politician. And this is the bit that's actually deadly serious. There's no acting here. If I was white and living in Oldham, I would be scared for what I'm going to release now. And if I was Asian, just so the racists don't call me for race baiting. If I was Asian and scared of what the cartels had already done to our communities, I would also be very scared. Let's look at Jenny Harrison. This is you see her with Ginny Alexander and Arucha. Is Arucha holding a rose or something? Jenny Harrison first came, Deputy Mayor, remember? First came to my attention because she was that disgraceful, disgusting woman in charge of the council meeting where they all walked out hiding the grooming gangs rather than answering A very simple and straightforward question from Debbie Cole. Now we now know how that played out. And not only was she that disgusting woman in charge, she would have been in charge then of the police coming in because she chairs that meeting. It was her meeting. And she allowed Syed Mushtaq to shout across to Debbie that she was a racist. So I started looking into Jenny and thinking, what's going on here? There you go. That's the full council meeting. Yeah. Her name specifically there. Deputy Mayor Jenny Harrison paused the meeting. As far as I'm concerned, pausing the meeting protected paedophiles. Jenny Harrison would have known that the public question time, that two of the questions that ate up the time was from Labour Party prospective councillors. As a Labour Party politician, she would have known how they'd fixed the council meeting. And this is her quote: "If people impede the progress of the meeting, I'm afraid I will have no alternative but to ask them to leave." Disgusting, disgraceful, paedophile protecting behaviour. We've gone 2 minutes over because we've managed to kill all the time, so you can't ask questions about the safeguarding and safety of our children. I'll call the police if you do that. Yeah, I'm going to phone the police and have a bunch of grannies arrested rather than listen to concerns that have now been proven to be true of the systematic grooming and gang rape of the town's children. Gets worse for Jenny. You need to understand that this woman is a councillor for Alexander Ward. And Alexander Ward is controlled by, if you don't want to believe in the control, has a heavy influence of Pakistani Labour Party voters. The members of the Labour Party, so they first and foremost decide who gets to be a councillor, or gets to be the Labour Party nomination for councillor, I should say. And then they come out and vote in their thousands. But they do something else. The cartels do something else. And let me bring this up for you. The 22nd of May 2015, Kevin Fitzpatrick. You'll have heard that name before because Kevin Fitzpatrick, the BBC Greater Manchester political reporter, was the guy who was involved in the email chain with Jim McMahon about using the funeral of Lee Rigby. A candidate in the recent council election in Oldham has claimed his vote was stolen by an imposter. Conservative Raja Amjad Iqbal, who fought Alexandra Ward in Oldham, claims he was turned away from the polling station because somebody voted as him. Let me explain what that means. This isn't just anybody at the polling station turning up. This is the actual candidate. This is the actual candidate. Went to vote and someone had already voted for him. Do you know what that is? That is a signal from the cartels demonstrating their power. The actual Conservative candidate had his vote stolen in Alexander Ward against the Labour Party candidate there. It's the equivalent of someone coming into your living room and taking a dump on your fancy cashmere rug or whatever you might have. and walking out and saying, I can do that to you. It's the political equivalent of someone going upstairs and raping your child and walking out. 2015, Alexander Ward, this happened. And this is where we join some dots up. Mr. Iqbal came second with 798 votes to Labour's Jenny Harrison, who won with a 1,101 vote majority. So I presume she got 1,101 votes, or she got 1,800 votes. I'm not sure. That was a sign by the cartels. Don't mess with us in Alexander. She is ours. When a candidate has his vote stolen, when the candidate has his vote stolen, who was the leader in 2015? May 2015, would that be, I think that was Jim McMahon. This town is crooked. And it gets worse for Jenny. Yeah, it gets worse for Jenny. You want to mess with me, Jenny? Go and ask your mate Bashforth. You want to hang out with Wilby and try and threaten me and intimidate me? I don't care, you're an old woman. You want to behave like a scrote? I'll treat you like a scrote. Go and ask your mate Barrelgate Bashforth, the bootlegger. So many councillors in this town hanging out with a malicious blogger and proven liar. Why? Because he is trying to take me out for exposing the grooming gangs. For no other reason than that, and because his mate, Irish Immy, the hired muscle, has been muzzled by a judge. Which they were trying to deny that happened, by the way. And then some idiot decided to query, well, I think I sent it to Debbie Barrett Cole, and she must have put it up on Twitter or something, because some idiot then said, oh, I'm violating his human rights by making people aware that he's been convicted. These people are stupid. You know, when people are convicted, their names and their photographs and even their addresses are published in the newspapers. You can take your whole human rights and shove it. Because there's no human rights when you're a convicted criminal like that. Heroin dealer, getaway driver. I don't care, you're Jim McMahon's mate or Willabooby's mate. Or now Jenny Harrison's mate, maybe. Hey, Jenny, it gets worse for you, Jenny, doesn't it? So I'll tell you why it gets worse for Jenny. Paul, I'll need your help on this. You put this up a couple of weeks ago. Or last week, in fact. You put up an image of a councillor somewhere in the Birmingham in the Midlands, I think, who was done for electoral fraud. And most people thought it was postal vote fraud, but it wasn't postal vote fraud. Remember that bloke said he was helping his community or something by doing what he did as his excuse. Well, he got done because he used a false address. He used an address inside the area because you meant to live within the, I think the rules were you meant to live within the town or the city you were standing. And then it transpired he didn't live there. And that's why it was electoral fraud. Well, there are a number of other reasons, factors around electoral fraud that prevent you from standing as a candidate. And one of those reasons is if you work for the council. So if you work for the local authority in which you stand, you're not allowed to stand as a candidate. Jenny Harrison was a teacher in Oldham. Weren't you, Jenny? And oh, by the way, she was also a husband and wife councillor team, the same as the Bashforths. Jenny Harrison was a was a teacher in the town. She was on the local authority's payroll when she stood to be a councillor. That's my information from a very, very reliable source. Standing to be a councillor when you're on the council payroll is unlawful. If that bloke in Birmingham, wherever, was put in prison or fined and made to pay back every penny he earned, Jenny Harrison should be made to pay back every penny she took. Unless I've got mistaken, Jenny, tell me if I'm mistaken, but were you not a teacher at the time when you stood? So we all know who we're looking at. That's her there, next to Ginny Alexander and Arud Shah in the middle. Isn't that right, Jenny Harrison? You were a teacher at the time, weren't you? It'll take the police 10 seconds to cross-reference it. When did she become a councillor? When did she become a councillor? And when was she working for the local authority at the time? Of course she can be charged retrospectively. What do you think happened to that bloke? What do you think happened to that bloke in Birmingham? Or wherever it was? You can't just get away with crimes like this. If she's been a councillor for 10 years or 15 years, and I think the minimum allowance they get is £9,000 or £10,000, every penny she's had should be paid back. Or my information is wrong. Come on, Jim. You knew about this as well, didn't you, Jim? Why do you think no one questioned it at the time? Until we came along, no one questioned anything. And if you did question it, you were branded as a far-right racist. If you are on the council's payroll, you cannot stand to be a councillor in the town or the city you represent. Those are the rules. Exactly like the Gelato's bullshit with Companies House. Shadow directors are illegal. And that's what Arud Shah admitted to being, a shadow director. You can get away with crimes. Well, if you belong to the cartels of the Labour Party, it seems you can get away. Maybe it's a... Did you all notice the complete silence from McMahon, Debbie Abrahams, and even Angela Rayner on the 80,000, was it 80,000 crimes a year that the police failed to record? How many of them would have been in Oldham? How many of them would have been vulnerable women and children in our town? How many of them would have been victims of violent assault? Complete silence from our MPs. That's the one. I think postal fraud is the wrong term, Paul. It's not he registered himself as a different address. People think, as soon as you say postal fraud, people think it was postal voting fraud. It wasn't that. He registered himself as living in an address he didn't live in so he could stand as a councillor, which is a comparison with Jenny. She, if she works for the council, she shouldn't be able to stand. And it's a crime. It's the same. You can't pick and choose which bits are crimes and which bits aren't. I'm not finished with you yet, Jenny. I played a bit of this earlier without the sound. People doubt her relationship. You know, this isn't accidental. It wasn't a coincidence that the conservative candidate that she stood against had his vote stolen. No. Alexander Ward is controlled by the cartels. And let me show you something. This was only from a couple of days ago. With the sound this time, hopefully.
ओल्ड टर्म काउंसिल की डिप्टी मेयर काउंसलर जेनी हैरिसन ने अपने पैगाम में कम्युनिटी को क्रिसमस की मुबारकबाद पेश करते हुए कहा, पिछले कई माह से कोरोना वायरस की वबा की वजह से मुश्किल तरीन मरहले से गुजर रहे हैं। उनका कहना था, कोरोना वायरस की वजह से सबसे अहम बात कम्युनिटी एक दूसरे के करीब आई और ज़रूरतमंद अफराद की मदद करने में किरदार अदा किया। उन्होंने कहा कि वो पुरुम्मीद हैं साल 2021 खुशियां लेकर आएगा और मुश्किलात का खात्मा होगा। हम एक दूसरे की मदद जारी रखेंगे।
Wishing everybody celebrating a very happy Christmas and everybody warmest wishes for a peaceful, healthy and happy new year. The past few months have been very difficult for everybody, but it's also brought out wonderful community spirit, people helping and supporting each other, and I very much hope that 2021 will bring an end to what we've been going through, but that we will continue to help and support each other. So very best wishes for a really good 2020.
Okay, there you go. So this woman clearly knows which side her bread is buttered. She knows where her core vote is, doesn't she? Because I didn't understand the word of that. I presume it was in Urdu or, you know, and it was on one of those community Urdu channels or something where, you know, the people in Alexander walk the Glodic overspill in that direction. Let me just have a break, put this on, and I've got something to get on with, which I've seen some of you make reference to, but you've missed the point, I'm afraid. And I think it's important, and I don't mean to be condescending or anything there, but I think it's important. And I've got a new gadget to show you all that I'm trying to learn how to use. If I can get this set up right without it getting in the way of my camera. Oh, yes. You can't see that yet, can you? No. How about that? Can you see that? I just need to set this up so it's as straight as it can be to make some sense. And I'll get to that. Perfect. Okay, give me a second, and I just need to refill my glass.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
I think what I do need is I need my that sort of a transition credit to be longer so I can actually get to the kitchen and get myself a drink. But okay, so that's my new gizmo there, and I'm just gonna show you something. Okay, so the reason for this is this should be the ward map. Yep. You can see, I mean, it doesn't have to be precisely straight, does it? But you can see it there. Do you want me to zoom it in a bit, maybe? There you go. Okay, so that's the ward map. And this overhead camera thing, it took me weeks to work out. And then another 3 days to work out because I had the camera on backwards and I couldn't twist the knob to get it on the right way around. Anyone who knows me will share with you my uselessness at DIY. So when I finally got it right, which was a Friday night at like 2 a.m, I phoned my friends up to tell them what I'd done. So that was me. So let me make sense of this now. Again, complete seriousness now. Seriously, guys, this town is on a cliff edge. And none of you understand it properly. Because if you did, forget being angry. White, Asian, doesn't matter. Because this is what's taking place. I don't think the government understand it. Because they're cold and clinical, and central government, the Electoral Commission, I don't think they understand it either. But let me bring you something up. Okay, council webpage. Yep, you can see it. Latest news. Local Government Boundary Commission for England. Have your say on proposed boundaries. A new pattern of wards is being developed for Oldham Council. Oldham residents, have your say on new council ward boundaries. We're asking local people and organisations for their help to draw up new ward boundaries across Oldham. The Commission has also announced that it is minded to recommend that the council should have 60 councillors in the future. So you know that thing about reducing the councillors to 40 that I think Proud of Oldham also support? Now, the Labour Party want it at 60 and the government have decided, or the local government boundary commission, it's actually independent of government, has decided that it's staying at 60. And they are now drawing up a new pattern of wards to accommodate 60 councillors. We need your help to tell where the new boundaries should be drawn. Below you can see the current ward boundaries for Oldham Council. You can submit comments to us or upload a document by clicking on the Have Your Say link in the top of the page. There is plenty of information to help you make a submission in the related links, which is here. There isn't actually, section at the top right of the page. And what you have here is the wards, yeah, the various wards. Now the problem you have here is they are vague as to what is actually going on. Why? Why are they creating new ward boundaries? Because that's the obvious question. Why are you creating new ward boundaries? If you've decided you're going to continue with the 60 politicians, as is, why are you having new ward boundaries? Anyone? I'll wait. I'll wait for the stream to catch up. Why the new ward boundaries? And they debated it at the council and all the rest of it. And the Lib Dems have mumbled and someone else has mumbled. No, Medlock Vale is on that map, I think, Debbie. I'd be surprised if it wasn't. It'd be just my zooming. It's there. If I zoomed it. No, it's it there, isn't it? You're right, it's not there, is it? No, it is. It's there. I can see it. Anyway, ignore what I'm doing. I can see it. That's not the question really about Medlock Vale being on the map or not on the map. It is on the map. Why are they wanting to redraw the boundaries? Nah, close. No. Okay. You've got to go looking for it on the document. Click on one of the links. Remember, I've clicked on 2 links already, and the council haven't said anything on their webpage. Why? So you go on the news release. And it's buried in here. 10-week consultation until the 16th of March. And here it is. You'd miss it. And most people would miss it, I think. The Commission is the independent body that draws these boundaries. Now the sentence is important. It is reviewing Oldham Council to make sure councillors represent about the same number of electors and that ward arrangements help the council work effectively. There. Councillors represent about the same number of electors. Councils represent the same number of electors. And that is the reason. So what's happened in Oldham, like in many other towns, is that the electors, the demographics of a town has changed over a period of time. And it's time for me to bring this up. And let me get it right. Let me get a highlight and I'll show you. I'm sorry, I'm just going to get rid of this chat for a second so you can't see it. In its own way, what I'm going to do now is more important than anything else I have revealed so far in all the time I have been doing. So please just try and go with me. We know the cartels are here in Coldust. We know they are in St. Mary's, which is Glodick. We know they control Werneth, Alexander, and Medlock Vale. You can see that, yeah? They control that. The population in these areas has also increased significantly. The council have told us that because the COVID cases are generated, they're concentrated around here, and they've made reference to multi-generational houses. They've made reference to the need for more housing in these areas. High ethnic minority. Yeah, Bangladeshi and Pakistani mainly here. Plus the new Romanian sort of communities and stuff, you know, the influx from wherever. Now, if they already have 3 councillors each, what will happen is, remember, they want to even out so there's enough councillors per head. These areas are going to get expanded and they'll eat into other areas. Sorry, I've missed one out. Chadderton North now has 2 Asian counties, you know, it's cartel as well. What's going to happen, people, is a big chunk of Royton North, and this is what I think, will get swallowed up into Coldus and Chadderton North. So you white folk in Royton North, your votes are about to become useless because you'll be swallowed up there. And Royton then will become 1 ward with maybe 2 councillors or 3 councillors. Do you understand? They're going to expand this area into that. They're also going to expand St. Mary's into St. James. So Durka and that area around there, gone. You'll be gone. You can see. Same with a chunk of Waterhead, you'll be gone. Same with a chunk of Hollingwood, you'll be gone. And these areas will have more councillors, and the working class white communities that are on the fringes here, that are already marginalised and disenfranchised, will be even more marginalised and even more disenfranchised. Now, the reason why the Lib Dems, and the Lib Dems understand this, are quiet, is because they're concentrated up here, where they're safe. The Tories are concentrated up here. And the outlying white working class communities in Oldham will come under the control of the cartels. I'm not race baiting. You've seen what the Boundary Commission has just said. follow it through logically, what do you think is going to happen? I'll use that camera for other stuff as we in the coming weeks and months. Do you see? No consultation. The council have just linked something onto the web page, and it's buried. It's buried in there, and most of you would miss it. I think that is a suitable response. Now, the Electoral Boundary Commission, or whatever it's called, isn't nuanced enough to understand local demographics this way. Because if you believe the council and all of those, the cartels are a figment of my imagination. They're not real. I've just made it up. Isn't that right, Jenny? Because it wasn't the cartels that stole the actual Conservative candidate's vote. It's a disempowerment and disenfranchisement of a significant part of our town. I know many Asian families who have left the cartel-controlled areas and moved out to try and get away from them and build a better life for their families, who will now find themselves back under the influence of the cartels. The new name Oldham Central, to do with the boundary changes, as well as the council's boundaries being changed, which is what I just described them. They are also looking to redo the parliamentary boundaries. So Oldham Central will take in Glodick, basically, and move it over to Moston and lose a bit of Royton. So what happens there is Werneth, Medlock Vale, Coldus, St Mary's, and now Glodick will form Oldham Central. Jim McMahon's the MP there. You're never going to get rid of him there. When you've got that cartel stranglehold. No wonder he wants to hang out with convicted killers and take his photograph with them. That's right, isn't it, Jim? A convicted killer from Werneth you were posing with. No wonder Keir Starmer's shadow transport minister, instead of having an opinion on all the transport chaos to do with Brexit, go on his Twitter profile, he's blocked people from commenting, he's blocked me anyway, and pinned to its top is an attack on me on a school that failed as a consequence of his actions, where he's tried and tried and tried to incriminate me for wrongdoing when I've been cleared and cleared again. But we have a saying where we come from, Jim. It's called Kismet. We end up where we're meant to be. And I think I'm meant to be in a place that stops you from becoming Prime Minister of our country. Because whilst you might control Glodick, Werneth, Coppice, Coldust, you don't control the rest of the country. And the rest of the country will know who you are and what you did in this town. As the parliamentary ward, a big chunk of Saddleworth will become like a West Riding sort of thing, and it'll include bits of Rochdale when you go over the hill and out the back. Now, does that make me a race baiter by sharing that with you? Because it's there, and it really, that should be shared with you. as citizens of Oldham, that should be shared with you. That the boundaries are being changed and the consequences of what will happen if the boundaries are changed, if it's just a simple arithmetic of 9,000 here, 9,000 there, 9,000 somewhere else. So why has it been hidden from you? I'd argue it's been hidden from you for the same reason that the grooming gangs, the systematic grooming and gang rape of our kids have been hidden from you. It did, didn't it? They didn't call them the cartels, but it highlighted them. It talked about the block postal vote and all of those things. Neil Wilby wants me arrested because of what I share with you. I'm not inciting violence. I'm encouraging political awareness. I think through knowledge comes power. I don't control the media in the way that Sean Fielding does and his council do. We're now even at a place where the only people who listen to me in this format, in a live format, are the people who pay to help my channel run. Sorry, I'm just turning my iPad back on. This looks like it's going to happen. That the elections will be suspended. I think they'll be suspended for a couple of months rather than for a year. So they'll go to September, I think. I think the natural and obvious thing will be the 1st of September, the first sort of Thursday in September, whenever that is. Now, what do we do until then? He doesn't have a mandate. He's already been on a year extra than he should have been. So it'll be another 3 months more. And the fear is it'll be postal vote only. Well, I'll put it out there now. If it is postal vote only, instead of a polling card being delivered to every voter, a postal vote should be delivered. So you don't have to register for a postal vote. You get one automatically. And you submit it and you send it back. So if it goes postal vote only, everyone should have a postal vote automatically. Now, Beverly Hughes and Andy Burnham weren't aware that the May elections were going to be cancelled or rearranged or put back when they announced that the grooming gang inquiry was going to be delayed, and they said the middle of next year. I think, and I can only share with you what I think, everything I share with you is what I think, and even the evidence I present to you, I interpret, and I tell you what I think of the evidence. The grooming gang report won't come out before then. The middle of next year will get kicked into touch a bit later. And even if it does, as we saw with the Home Office report, they just lied. They just covered it up. They just twisted the language to make it mean something that the stats showed completely different. The Home Office report, remember, into the grooming gangs, that hundreds of thousands of us submitted a petition to and demanded it be released, was doctored so much that the left-leaning idiots, like the Guardian and everywhere else, the Jenny Williams of the world and the Charlotte Greens of the world, whose children, if they had children, would never be at risk from the grooming and gang rape by Asian men in Labour-controlled towns where they know they could get away with it. That report said one thing when the evidence demonstrated something else. It said most members of the grooming gangs were white. And then you got to read the small print, and there were two studies that they used. Study 1 said 30% were white, 28% were Asian. It ignored the fact that only 7% of the country is Asian. And if 28% of them are Asian, are 4 times more likely, I think that's that should have been the headline. And then the second study showed 75% were Asian. It's actually buried in the Home Office's report. 75% were Asian. And they ignored that. I'm really sorry, Kath, that you've had to deal with Councillor Fielding's father standing outside your lounge window. I've not got to his son yet. The council sponsored Oldham Times. Remember, the council refuse. Open and transparent council still refuse to say how much they fund the local press. Complaining about Dovestones being choked up with tourists or visitors or walkers. Where was the Oldham Times headline? Where was the Oldham Times headline only a matter of weeks ago when Sean Fielding and his girlfriend broke lockdown rules and went to Derbyshire for their walk? I'm sure the people of Derbyshire would have been outraged, who at the time were at a lower COVID area than Oldham was. I think you're all being polite. Mark, sorry, essential journeys only. Oh. What else have I got? I want to share you, before I get to the last bit, I want to share you this. Oh, and you're more than welcome. If anyone wants to call in or stuff, I should have said actually, I've got the phone set up. I've got the wire set up. This is a private group, so you can either ask me and I'll put up the interview thing, so you can actually come in on the interview, and we can have a chat if you want. Or I can just, I'm waving a wire. I can just plug this into the phone, and you can phone me on Messenger, and you can ask me anything you want. So towards the end, I'd like to do that. So if any of you are interested, just let me know, and I will do that. Remember, we talk about Oldham and Oldham. That was my Asian accent there coming from Oldham. Remember when we talk about Oldham, and I talk about it being the industry of this town is poverty. Have a look at this. This is one of the brochures. This is one of the council's brochures. I want to show you something. How they advertise the town. And this is recent. The average wage rate in Oldham is 6% lower than the UK average, representing a significant cost saving. Come to Oldham, where you can fleece people, because unemployment is high and the labour is cheap. That is how they are selling our town. Okay, let me find something and put it up if I can. I don't know where it's gone. Sorry, don't mind me. I'm just trying to find. Oh, there we go. I've copied a link. And I'm going to paste a link on here. So if anyone wants to come on, there should be a link pasted there. It's gone on the YouTube for some reason. I see. So it doesn't like going on Facebook. But Debbie Cole's got it. Debbie, perhaps, or if Moyab or any of the others who've phoned in before, if you share that guest.ecam live link, people can phone in and speak to me, or you can just phone me a messenger and speak to me whilst I just take a deep breath before I get onto the bit I promised everyone. Oh, 2 bits actually. I've got 2 bits left. Okay, remember this week? Fury over conversion of former pub to emergency sheltered accommodation in Shaw. So that's what Nick Jackson looks like. All right, chief reporter for the Oldham Times. What he forgot, or didn't mention in any of it. Where's the article gone? Do I not get to see it? To continue reading and support local journalism. Yeah, bugger to that. Let me just press return again and see if I get that. Here we go. No, I'm not going to register with you lot. Here we go. Angry neighbours of a former pub in Shaw protested about its conversion into emergency sheltered accommodation. CarePoint Housing Limited submitted an application on November the 11th. And this chief reporter, Nick Jackson, failed to click a couple of buttons and find out who CarePoint were. Then there's this nonsense from Councillor Gloucester and Councillor Sykes, who are now going to object to it because clearly, and alluding that they didn't know beforehand. They would have known beforehand because it would have been brought up at the parish council. But on the 11th of November, this company put this application in. Yeah. And he mentions 2 names. CarePoint's sole director is Metab Shokot, Ms. As I was told, of Ashtree Grove, Nelson, and the agent for the applicant. So the agent is someone at Bridge Street, Oldham. So so the chief reporter is trying to imply that these guys are from Nelson. They've got nothing to do with Oldham. Only if you go on the council's own webpage, kind-hearted PPE donation to Oldham Council. So that's the word they use these days, donation. published on the 3rd of December. So 3 weeks after the planning application went in, this article appears on the Oldham Council webpage. £100,000 donation of PPE from a local business. And guess who the local business is called? CarePoint. Arud Shava front and centre, do you see her? £100,000. Coincidence? In this town, I believe less and less in coincidences. And then, of course, I find out that the guy who actually has ownership of the company's house records of CarePoint has an address in Oldham. He actually lives in Oldham. And then all my Pakistani friends start to send me some messages as to who this person is or isn't. If I lived in Shaw, I would be very worried by what is taking place in front of them. Now, I can only share what I think is taking place here. But even then, I don't think I need to share it. I think any of you, and every one of you, with any ounce of common sense, can see what's took place here. The timing of this donation and the people behind the company who are now suddenly trying to get planning permission to make a HMO. That's a house of multiple occupancy, by the way. It's the sort of thing that my middle class friends all talk about, how important these places are, as long as it's in other people's areas and neighbourhoods. You've seen my intro. Months old. I make reference to this town as a cartel town. It has only been going a few months, but I get the impression that the people behind it have been in business for a considerable amount of time. And the £100,000 donation is what do you think? Maybe ice creams? No, I don't know who said that. No, you can't say that. No. You can't suggest such a thing like that. Okay. Last bit for tonight. No, not last bit. Second to last bit. Sorry. I've opened a stream at the top of my desktop. I'm trying to do it in a different way this week, so you see it one after the other. I've got it all lined up beforehand, so that's why it works like that. Plea to council chiefs over mad law funding. Okay, all of you know that the council have put out to consultation. They put out to consultation a series of proposed budget cuts. And they've set out the projects and the areas where they want to cut in. One of the biggest cuts they want to do is to Madlow in terms of project. They want to chop £200,000 to £300,000 off their budget. Remember, this is the same council that has increased its funding in the press or communications officers, as they call them. They're not higher press officers, as the taxpayers' allowance found out. So the council conveniently said zero to them when the taxpayers' allowance asked how much the council was spending on press officers, because it's apparently incorporated into the roles of the communication officers. But they didn't say how much they paid the communications officers, although earlier this year we exposed they'd hired 2 new ones at over £100,000, or give or take. So, they've got money for press officers, but in the press, in the Oldham Times, that they won't tell us how much they've spent. The Oldham Times is campaigning for Madlow's funding to be saved. And because it was one of the projects that was provisionally earmarked for the cutting of funding. Now, I've worked with councils for 20 years at least. I know this game is as old as the houses. What they do is they have a list of projects that they know they were never going to cut, but they think the people will get behind and they'll save those projects. And they save those projects to show how hard they've tried and how well they've done and how they've bent over backwards and listened to people. Madlaw, I believe, is one such project. It's not going to lose its funding. It was never going to lose its funding. They're just playing. But what we've all missed yet again, whilst Oldham Times is concentrating on Madlaw, go and look at that consultation document. You will not find a single cartel-aligned project, organisation, facility earmarked to have any of its funding cut. Not one single one. And they call me the race baiter. Okay. Definitely. Last one. Corp Academy Failsworth. Yeah. Shut at the moment, isn't it? I think they're all shut, aren't they? All the schools are shut. And I asked Sean Fielding to make a public statement, and he's so far refused. So I'll share with you what I know. This is what I've been able to make sense of from the information I've been given. I believe it to be true. I know there are holes in it because I'm not an investigator and I don't have access to all the records. But what I share with you now is, in a list of shames and scandals of this town, another shameful day and another scandal for this town. From as far back as 1999, from the records and the information I've found and I've had shared with me, teachers in Failsworth School have been sexually assaulting young girls. My information is it continued all the way up to 2015 at the very least. It's inconceivable that those that ran the school were unaware. And shall we clear, those that ran the school, the governors, included Sean Fielding, the current leader of the council, and also David Hayes, the former MP. What has been shared with me is harrowing. It includes girls who, after being sexually assaulted, were then suspended from school and only allowed to return if they agreed to stay quiet. It includes girls who were locked in classrooms and told they had to kiss the teachers. There's a statement from a child no longer a child clearly, but a statement retrospectively from a child. Well, she was being, his hands was down her skirt. If it feels good, go with it. Multiple teachers. Failsworth School, run by the council before it became Co-op Academy, then also after it became Co-op Academy. What this points to is a systematic cover-up of the sexual assault of children in the care of the council, because it was a council-run school, overseen by governors that includes the current governor of this, the current leader of Oldham Council, Sean Fielding. Furthermore, one of the teachers who got engaged to one of his former students once she turned 18 and then later married was allowed, because I think some questions need to be asked as to when this relationship was struck up. If you get engaged to a student or a former student when she turns 18, when she left the school at 16, Sean Fielding knows this teacher, don't you, Sean? You play in a band, or you played in the band with this teacher, which was my reference to the Failsworth band before Christmas. The information I've got on my phone, brought to me and cross-referenced, 1999 was the starting point, and I can't go back any further than that, I'm afraid. An urgent investigation needs to take place, not just into Failsworth School, but into every school in Oldham run by the council. Because if it happened in one school, the cover-up, no wonder they turned a blind eye to Pakistani grooming gangs picking up kids outside Count Hill School, when in other council-run schools, the girls were just as unsafe inside the school as they were outside the school. If it feels good, go with it. Failsworth School. Children were sexually abused by teachers. Maybe that's why Sean Fielding's dad was stood outside your window. Because he knows what happened. The council know what happened. Those that ran the school and other schools know what happened. If I had a teenage girl, and I do have a child, she's in primary school, but if I had a teenage girl in any secondary school in Oldham, I would not be sending them back until there was a statement issued from Sean Fielding, specific to Failsworth School and his knowledge, and also confirming an immediate investigation into every other school in Oldham. Suspending a child and allowing her back to sit her exams as though she was the guilty one, providing she's kept quiet. Locking a classroom door and refusing to let a child out until she kissed him. see Moyab's put his poem back up. I'll try and get this fixed for the Facebook thing, but if it doesn't work, I'm going to have to kill the YouTube link, I'm afraid, because I find it more difficult this way without seeing people's names and stuff. I find it very difficult to interact with without knowing who's posting what. It takes a big chunk away from my ability to engage, I'm afraid. So to the couple of people who I share YouTube links with, my apologies. I'll try one more time, but then that will be. If I can't get it right, I'm afraid I'm going to have to go back to the way where I can see the names. Jim McMahon is falsely claiming that I, or suggesting, had something to do with child protection failures. Complete fallacy and falsehood. There's not a single teacher in any of the schools I was involved in who would even suggest that. And yet, Failsworth School, Count Hill School, Havershaw School, Blue Coat, these are the ones that, people have referenced. How many more? How many more? I am grateful to all of you who've signed up as supporters. The £3.49. I have had so many messages of so many angry people who think that I can just somehow keep doing this without trying to at least recoup something in terms of my overheads. And if anyone, there's someone suggested I make money out of this, as though I make money out of this. It's as the odd £3.49 or whatever. Most of you were paid £1 before. That patron took 40% off or 50% off before I saw any of it. So I'm grateful to all of you who've signed up as supporters. My intention is to keep going for as long as possible. Please, I ask, by all means talk about this, but don't copy these transmissions and share bits to anyone else. I'm sure people will get hold of them one way or another. My intention is to try and either edit this or have a look to see what's gone on and share it with others on the normal page if possible, or extracts on the normal page to try and keep the awareness going. But I'll cross that bridge when I get there. But I'm really sorry. I know many of you live in Failsworth, and I know many of you have children. But I've cross-referenced it. You saw what I put up about the band before Christmas. And it's true. Children were groomed, children were sexually abused, and the school covered it up. Good night. I'll see you all next week. Please keep sharing the page and try and get more people signed up. I'll be grateful. Anyway, good night. See you next week. Thank you. Thank you.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.